Hey everyone, this is Kimmy. I am Mama on a Mission. I am a 14-year online reseller on eBay, Poshmark, Depop, and most recently I've added Whatnot to my reselling game. And today's video is going to be about Whatnot shipping. Woo! And this is a topic. So I have been doing Whatnot for 2 weeks. So let me put a disclaimer on this right off the bat, is I'm learning too, which I know a lot of you are really excited to kind of follow this journey because I don't really know what I'm doing. I kind of do now, just a smidge. As far as the Whatnot game, I've been doing eBay for almost 15 years, but when it comes to Whatnot, I am learning, and some of you are learning with me, which is kind of fun. And we can all kind of learn from all of these experiences. And I can tell you, the shipping, my first show, I messed up the shipping. And I'm going to tell you like all of those details here coming in this video. So if you're new to Whatnot, or you're trying to learn about Whatnot and shipping is something that you are concerned about, this could be a good video for you. But part of that disclaimer is me being a newbie means that I am not perfect. I don't want to act like, here, you got to do it this way. And this for sure is the answer. Like, no, like take what I have to say with a grain of salt. Obviously, I'm providing the information as clear as it is to me. And that's obviously, I want to relay helpful information. Just know that I've done 5 shows. I've been doing this 2 weeks. And I have learned about the shipping so far. So I do have a lot of good notes here. Of course, as always, feel free to ask questions in the comments and everything. And at the end, here's the thing too, is I'm going to talk through some scenarios that I've been through, my thoughts, how I'm currently doing my Whatnot shows as a clothing reseller. And then I'm going to screen share, show you my computer and kind of show you some of these things as you can see it on my Whatnot screen. That's going to be at the end of the talky chatter part. So you're going to have to get through dealing with me and my face first, and then we'll do the computer part at the end, just kind of all together. And I'll show you some of the screens that I see, and hopefully that will be a good starter, like a basic Whatnot overview on shipping. Yeah, like I said, I just wanted to, I don't want anyone to think I'm a Whatnot shipping expert. My plan is in probably 3 months from now, I will do another Whatnot shipping video and kind of give additional perspective. Of course, at that point, I'm going to have how many more shows under my belt, a lot more shipments, and hopefully I will have additional information or just like have a little bit more clarity on how I'm running my shows as far as the shipping goes. One of the biggest things for me is that I am a clothing reseller. And if you are more of a hard goods, glassware, home decor, you are also going to have to kind of take some of this information and put it into your own business model. Because honestly, shipping clothes a lot of times can be easy. I'm using these poly mailers for a lot of my stuff, or an easy box. And I don't have to worry a whole lot about the additional process and the additional weight and all the factors that come with shipping glass, shipping decor, those types of things. So also keep that in mind. Let me know, are you a clothing reseller? Like, I'm really curious as to a lot of you, or do you do home goods? Do you do shoes? Like, that is one of the first topics I'm going to talk about, is when you put your items into Whatnot. And like, this could be like a 10-hour long video. So I'm going to try to keep some of the topics short. When you put your items into Whatnot, you have the ability to put it more of a generic inventory item, or you can be very specific. And what that means is you could do kids item 1, kids item 2, kids item 3. That's more of a generic or basic listing where you don't put in a whole bunch of information. And then a more quality listing, I believe is the verbiage that Whatnot uses, is you actually put in pictures and details of every item you're going to put like in your show. Now, if you are someone who has the ability to purchase or sell the same items all the time, doing a more quality listing where you put in the pictures and all of the information might be for you. Because, and you might still want to do that either way, because you might want to have all the specifics there. That's what I mean. There's two different scenarios here. Like if you know you always get inventory of a certain brand or a certain style of item, then you can make what they call like a more quality fulfilled item with pictures, descriptions, titles, all the same things you would put into like eBay, Mercari, Poshmark. What I have mostly been doing is a more generic, and they allow you to do this. And a lot of the big sellers who sell a ton of inventory, that's how they do it. Which is odd, you know, because on eBay and Poshmark, we're used to putting in a full description, full title, a drop down for the brand, right? All of those things. And Whatnot, you don't have to do that. And a lot of the big sellers don't, and I don't, even as a little tiny seller. I really have not been putting in the details. So if I'm doing a kids show, I will put in kids basic. And that's it. And then you can put in quantity 50. And every time you run a kids item, you just hit kids item, kids item, kids item, kids item. Now, as far as the shipping part of this goes, is you have to set your shipping for these kids items at like a generic amount. You basically have to guess. No, that's not good advice. Don't guess. You have to put in your best estimate of what you think those items are for, like weigh for. So my kids' items are pretty low in weight. So my kids' items run for usually either 3 to 7 ounces or 8 to 11 ounces in the settings of the shipping. Now remember, I'm going to go at the end. You have to wait, listen to me blabber, and then at the end, I'm going to show you what I'm talking about directly on the computer. Now, if you are doing jeans or coats, then when you put in jean 1 for your shipping settings, you have to put in something heavier. The options are, once you get into the heavier amounts, 1 to 2 pounds, 2 pounds, 3 pounds, and it goes up from there. So you are this is one of the biggest things that can be confusing about the Whatnot shipping, is making sure you are selecting the right shipping weight for your items. Now, if you're super worried about that, and I get it, because I worry about it too, and I've already had a couple experiences with it. You can overestimate, meaning if you're not sure if it's going to be within that 3 to 7, you can set it for 8 to 11 ounces. The caveat to that is it is more expensive for your buyers, and they will see at the bottom. Shipping is set 8 to 11 ounces. It's going to cost you $5.55. And I have already had people say, oh, this says it's set for a heavy amount. Is it really that heavy? Because they want to get a good deal and they want to make sure that the shipping isn't too expensive. And then you're like, okay, well, you're right. It's probably only 6 ounces. Let me set it back to a lighter setting. Now, if you preload all of your items, you do the quality listing, then you can put every single item for the amount of ounces or pounds that it is. So if that's more appealing to you, you could load it just like your eBay store and preload your 50 items you're going to run for a show. You can put in a picture, a description, and then you can weigh your item right there, and you can make sure you put in the right shipping weight. For me, that would be super time consuming and is just honestly not a great option. I don't have the time to do that. You guys know I'm like always a hot mess express. I'm running from this place to that place. I personally could not do Whatnot if I preloaded every 100 items for every show. It's just not going to work for me. And so I do have to adapt and make sure I'm learning as I go and setting the shipping settings according to my business model, right? So for me, for example, if you're for a clothing reseller, most of your tops, right? I do tops, I do jeans, I do all these things. Most of your women's tops, I am putting in 8 to 11 ounces. That's a basic blouse. and they should fall within that category. And that is how Whatnot is going to calculate out the buyer's shipping, is based on the weight, which is similar to eBay, right? You weigh your item. Okay, this top is 11 ounces, boop, boop, boop. You plop it in there and eBay gives you a price. The difference is you have to put in that weight ahead of time when the person is purchasing it. So 8 to 11 is normal blouses. I did do 12 to 15 ounces on like sweaters or something like a thicker long sleeve, maybe a flannel. That's what I'm setting in the item profile as I put women's heavy, just a heavier item. I will select 12 to 15 ounces or 1 to 2 pounds. The jeans is 1 to 2 pounds in the item selection. Now, this is going to be confusing. So don't feel overwhelmed, because even saying it right now, I'm like, that sounds easy, but it also sounds really complicated. Like, am I making any sense here? That's the basics of how Whatnot shipping works. You have to put in the weight for the items ahead of time, and you have two options. You could do the generic form, the basic form, kids 1, kids 2, kids 3, and you set the weight at what you think it's going to be. Or you can enter in all of your items ahead of time, preload them into your show, and physically weigh them yourself, and then select it for each item. Tommy Hilfiger jacket, 2 pounds. This is preloading it before your show starts, which if you're really, really nervous, that might be actually a really great way for you to feel even more comfortable in your show, is selecting your 50 items you're going to run, and you can save them. So if it doesn't sell, it'll save in your back like log of items. You can save it. So if the Tommy Hilfiger item doesn't sell, in your next show, you can click the items to add to your next show. So that is obviously a benefit, especially at the beginning. If you're not going to be selling a whole lot and you're nervous about running the items, you can preload all of your items. You create your show, you create the times, and then it says add items, and then you can put them in there, all 50. Boop, boop, boop. Put the weight in there. It says shipping, weight, and that's where you select all of your weights. Now, again, for me, I have to do it. I don't have the time to do it the better way. Like, I don't want to say better way. Both options are okay. They're good options. It just depends on you. I really just don't have the time. So here's what I do. My kids show, a regular kids item. I put kids top 4 to 7. Kids, like a sweater or a hoodie, I put 8 to 11. And it's 8 to 11 ounces. That's your choice. Like, Whatnot sets your choices. So that's why I keep saying those numbers. It's 8 to 11 ounces is your choice for weight. And then like jackets, I'm going to do some jackets and maybe like snow pants or something coming up. Those are going to be 1 to 2 pounds. Let me know. That's like the basics of Whatnot, setting up your items in the Whatnot shipping. It's all based on the weight. And when people ask you, do they bundle items? Whatnot automatically bundles your items together, and it accumulates on top of that. So if someone orders 2 items and I have an example on the computer that will be written, hopefully that will help. 2 items at the 4 to 7 ounce range, it is going to charge your customer for 2 4 to 7, which eventually just ends up being 14 ounces. 7 ounces plus 7 ounces. The label that they're going to provide to you is a label for a 14 ounce package. And it will continue to bundle all those things. If they order 6 items all at the 4 to 7, it will keep adding 4 to 7, 4 to 7, 4 to 7. And obviously they're going to use the heavier weight, like the heavier part of that, 4 to 7 ounces. So your label is going to be for, if you had 7 items or 6 items at the 7 ounces, it's going to be for 42 ounces. Your label is going to say 42 ounces right on it. Is this helpful at all? Is everybody's brain just going like this? Because I feel like I'm being helpful, but I feel like this could be confusing. Just know it does sound confusing, and it is overwhelming. Anything brand new is going to be overwhelming. I messed up on my first show, and I'm going to tell you why and how and I'm going to show you exactly on my computer what not to do like I did, so you guys can learn from me if you haven't done your first show, or something you don't want to do right off the bat because I thought I understood it and I didn't. So there's the basics of how you can load your show, how you can run your items, the more generic way, and then especially if you're nervous and you really want to be organized and prepared and ready to go, do the way where you preload all of your items. If you're able to do that, and all you need is one picture, boop, Tommy Hilfiger, boop, Tommy Hilfiger size large, Tommy Hilfiger size large, and then you put in your shipping. Those are your two options. Obviously, it can be a little bit risky to always be estimating your items, meaning that I have a whole rack of clothes. And yes, they might all be size extra large, but is every extra large blouse the same weight? No. Every brand is different. Material is different, right? Usually polyester is a little bit lighter. 100% cotton would be heavier. If it has wool or any other material, it's going to be heavier. So there is a little bit of risk to running your items in that broad 4 to 7, 8 to 12 ounce range, knowing that each blouse is not going to be exactly the same. Unless yours are. Unless you're selling exactly the same item all the time, then maybe that would work for you. But there is a little bit of risk to estimating or putting in that 4 to 7 into your items. So keep that in mind. Yes, the shipping does bundle for your customers. Obviously, the shipping goes up the more that they put in, but they're not doing separate orders. When it does do separate orders, it's usually because they get to, from my experience, they get to a certain weight and then they have to start a new box over. That case in my first show was because it hit 5 pounds. And then it started a new box for the customer. And I ended up getting, I ended up doing something wrong, so I ended up paying for shipping because of that setting, which again, I will show you guys. Now, the good news is Whatnot gives you 5 free adjustments every week. So especially if you're only doing one show, they will give you 5 free adjustments in your shipping. So what does that mean? You plugged in 4 to 7, they bought 5 items. It should be 35 ounces. You go to weigh, you put all the items in the package, you put it on the scale, and it's 42 ounces. Oh, man. It's over what you estimated it to be based off of kids 1, kids 2, kids 3. Whatnot gives you 5 free shipping adjustments per week. And I've used them. Oh, yeah. I'm already using mine because I'm learning. I'm not perfect. I'm, just like anybody else. I'm human. I'm brand new. I'm 2 weeks into this. I've had to use an adjustment already. And that was the case for me when I did kids items, 4 to 7, 4 to 7, 4 to 7. Someone ordered about 7 items. And when I went to go put them in, there was like a couple like zip ups for kids, which can be a little bit heavier. And I didn't put it at the heavier weight because I was like, oh, that's going to be 7 ounces. Well, it ended up being, I think, like 48 ounces. The package for this customer after I added up all of their 7 kids items that they purchased. So there is a little breath of fresh air. I'm actually really thankful that they do that. Who knows if they're eventually going to get rid of it, but they give you 5 free adjustments. Now, if you have a huge show and you mess it all up, you're going to be paying for it because they only give you 5 free per week to adjust if your weight is estimated wrong. After that, yeah, you can still adjust it, but you are going to have to pay for the difference. So if you messed up your weights and it's off by 5 pounds, you're going to have to pay for the difference. The buyer does not pay for the difference because essentially they're saying it's our fault, and kind of it is. I mean, it is, right? So keep that in mind when you're putting in your items. You get 5 free shipping adjustments, and that kind of gives you a little bit of peace of mind, hopefully. Like I said, you could also estimate on the high side. Just know that the shipping is going to be more expensive to the customer, and it shows right at the bottom of the auction. Shipping is $6.65. So you have your little auction thing. It says current bid $5, and then underneath it says shipping is $6.65. So if you're putting everything at 3 pounds because you're worried about the weight, then it's going to charge the customer $15 for shipping, and that's going to be a turnoff for your customer. So if you're trying to go like estimate a little bit on the high side, don't get crazy. Don't just put 5 pounds because you want to cover your butt, but then it's going to look, the customer's going to see it says $27 for shipping, and they're not going to want to pay for it. Okay. So if you want to do that and you're doing blouses, tops, things like that, you can estimate a little bit on the high side. Just know that it could impact your customers wanting to purchase because it's going to be more expensive. A lot of my blouses I'm running for 8 to 11 ounces. If it's getting heavier, sweaters, like especially a heavy sweater, you want to do 1 to 2 pounds on your sweater setting. Someone did ask someone asked a question, great question, in my comments, and I really didn't even know what it was. She or he asked, can you talk about shipping profiles? I didn't even really know what that was. So I did a little research. I am going to show you guys on the screen here some information. They do have an option. Basically, a shipping profile is similar to on eBay. You can set certain settings for items that you run all the time. So on my eBay, for instance, I have a $5.99 base price on most of my blouses that are underneath a pound. Your shipping profile is very much the same. You can go in and create a sweater shipping profile and set the amount of weights to those sweaters. So if you want to do a sweater shipping profile for 2 pounds, and then it has some other options, like you can add increments. So if they buy 2 sweaters, then add another pound every time they order another sweater, then that's your sweater shipping profile. And that's about as basic as I fully understand it right now. I'm going to create shipping profiles and use them in my next few shows and see how that relates to the rest of the shipping part. That's as much as I know about the shipping profile. I would consider it like some of the pre-settings you have into like your eBay is a base amount. My sweaters are going to be 3 pounds. If they buy another one, it's another 1 pound, another 1 pound into the weight of that item. And then you can set that to your items. Like set that as like the shipping on all of your sweaters. That makes sense? Maybe. Like I said, I am new. These are the basics, the basic understandings. I have all my notes here. I took some time to try to write out the most important things and that my understanding is 2 weeks into this. Hopefully some of that was helpful. This is kind of a short version of it, but that's basically because I wanted to stick to the key items. Really, when you're setting your items to those 2 different options, more of a generic, or you can preload all of your items, it will have the shipping profile and the shipping settings that you can drop down. And I will show you that I'm pointing over here like you can see my computer, but I'm going to literally screen share with you some of these settings so that you guys can see exactly how I see it. And hopefully that will also give you a little bit better understanding of how to set up your items. Now, I will show you what I messed up, and here's what I messed up. And maybe that's what I'll do first. So I'll put this screen on first. Was my first show, this was my big mess up. I ended up paying quite a bit out of pocket, like 20, 30 bucks, maybe even more. Was that under the show settings, under shipping costs, I had selected that the buyer only pays up to a certain amount of shipping. And a lot of big sellers do this because it's basically a promotion. People can buy as many items as they want, and it's only going to cost $10, which works in certain atmospheres. Especially like low weight stuff. Like if you have jewelry or, something that's super light and it's not going to really get to 5-10 pounds, then that would work. If you have really high profit margins on your items and you don't mind losing $2, $4, $6 on your shipping per order, that could also work. Why it didn't work for me is like setting a certain amount, like, hey, buyers don't pay over $10, was that I had buyers that bought 20 items from me, And even at the, 20 blouses in a box, it's going to cost more than $10 to ship. So anything above that $10, I was responsible for. And that's where I messed up, and that's where I lost money. So if you made it here to 25 minutes already, huge suggestion and tip is in your show, when you go under shipping settings under your show, make sure it says buyer pays all shipping, no matter what. I don't know if I'll use the set shipping costs maybe in the future. Maybe I'll have more followers and my items will sell for a little bit more. Maybe I'll do a show with very lightweight items that are bundled that I'm not worried about it being over. Now you can set it. You could say no shipping, like set shipping cost of $15 or $20. And if you weren't really worried about it, then the customer would know, hey, you're not going to pay more than $15 in shipping. And in your mind, you have to calculate that out. All right, if I'm selling kids' clothes at only 4 to 7 ounces, how many can I get in there for $15 cost, right? You have to think of the 4 to 7 ounces. 7 ounces, how many pounds? Someone would have to, hopefully my math mind isn't driving you guys nuts. 7 ounces per item for $15 in shipping. How many pounds could you possibly get for $15? 3 pounds at 7 ounces a piece. You could get 7, 8, 9 items that they buy in that $15 cost. But anything above that, and Whatnot calculates all the shipping themselves based on your weight settings, would be your responsibility. So if you're going to set your first show, make sure you go in here. I'm going to show you in a second. I'm going to show you exactly where it's at. Show information. You scroll down a little bit. Shipping costs. Buyer pays all shipping costs. I am going to turn this thing around. I always joke. It's like when your mom or dad or whoever, you're like yelling at your kid, don't make me turn this thing around. That's what I always say when I'm going to give a screen share. I'm going to turn this computer around, this phone around, and I'm going to give you exactly what I'm seeing here so you guys can see it too. And I hope this is helpful in some way. Hopefully. Okay, so here we are. You are literally looking at my own seller hub. Hopefully I don't show you something I'm not supposed to. This is exactly where I'm talking about with that shipping cost. When you set up your show, it says schedule a show. See that in the corner? Schedule a show. This is you setting up a brand new show. In the title here, it says name your show. Pretty simple, right? Kids clothes, brand names. And then you put your show date, your show time, your categories. This media part is where you put that's your thumbnail, like everyone sees. So I put women's plus size. I do like a little graphic. And then you finally get to your shipping settings. Now you can see here, you do have an option for free local pickup. If you want to do that for yourself, I will not be doing that, just not for me. And I'm not sure who that would be the best for. So I guess I don't really have much to say on that home front. But then here are your domestic shipment options. And you can see they categorize them under 3 ounces. So if you are a card seller like my husband and sons are, that's where this would be. If you sell, like they sell baseball cards, Pokemon cards, and that's a huge thing on Whatnot, if you didn't know, is selling cards. It's huge. It's crazy how many cards probably get sold on Whatnot. So that would be for them. Under 3 ounces, male letter weight. For most of you, you're going to ignore that. Unless you're a card seller, then that's for you. Then you get to the domestic shipments. You can see it says from 1 to 5 pounds. You have USPS priority mail, or you also have a fixed flat rate box option. Now, I chose regular priority mail. I think that is going to, for the most part, be the best option for me at this time. And what that means is from 1 to 5 pounds, it goes, either way, it's going to be a priority mail, but the priority mail option can be any amount of items from that 1 to 5 pounds. If you click that flat rate box option, all the items have to fit in the flat rate box. If you're not familiar with a large flat rate box, it's a specific size. You have to get it from USPS. Now, that could work for maybe like a kids' clothes show. And you know, even if they order 15 items, it's all going to fit in the flat rate box. Now, if you don't think that could be the case, or you're worried about the case, my suggestion as a beginner from what I know is click the USPS priority mail for anything that's 1 to 5 pounds. And it will, you know, if they order 3 items or if they order 6, as long as it's within the 1 to 5 pounds, that's what Whatnot is going to charge them. If you are really confident it's going to fit in a flat rate box, then you could click that. But I'm not familiar enough, and I don't think that is the right move for me. So if you're a newbie, I'm going to say don't do that. Hit this top button, USPS priority mail, because you can use almost any box for priority mail, honestly. Then your second option here is domestic shipments over 5 pounds. Now with me, when I did my plus size show, there were shipments over 5 pounds. People were ordering 8 items and they were, you know, a little bit heavier blouses or button-ups, and it got to over 5 pounds. This is where you can set those options as well. You could still go USPS priority mail. That's still a fine option. Flat rate, honestly, would not be a good option for most people over 5 pounds, because you have to think that's most likely a lot of items to weigh over 5 pounds. Like, unless you're selling like lead weights, like small but very heavy items, the flat rate over 5 pounds is not going to make sense, because it all has to fit in that box no matter what. I have selected USPS Ground Advantage because a lot of times in heavier items, that's a more cost-effective weight, like a way to ship your items, but they do say it could be slower. Priority mail is usually 1 to 3 business days. It's more customer friendly because they get their items usually pretty fast. Ground Advantage, I think they say like 2 to 5 days or 3 to 5 days. So Ground Advantage is going to be a little slower, but I do believe it's going to be more cost effective. So again, this is in your show information. When you're scheduling a brand new show, you're putting in all of your information. You are selecting these, you're selecting these options. In my opinion, if you're a clothing seller for sure, I would set them the way I have them. USPS priority mail for 1 to 5 pounds here, and then USPS Ground Advantage for over 5 pounds. Of course, you do you, whatever you think would work. That's how I'm doing my shipping settings at this time. And then if you keep scrolling down, this is where I messed up. In my first show, here's the options here. You have 3 options. 1, 2, 3. Seller pays all shipping costs. I mean, if you want to be really nice and pay for all of your shipping for your customers, I don't know why or anyone who could do that. That would be us. That would be the sellers pay all shipping costs. Don't click that button. Like, I don't think I'm ever going to click that button, because typically my margins aren't high enough to warrant paying $15 out of pocket for every order. So don't click that. In my opinion, don't do that. This is what I picked when I messed up and ended up having to pay out of pocket. Buyer pays up to a set shipping amount. So I had clicked this and I put in the amount of $9.21. So I was saying that the buyer pays up to $9.21, and then anything else I was going to pay for. Now, again, why do people do this? A lot of times they're higher volume sellers. Maybe their items are lighter weight, so they're not worried about it going over this amount. Or they're doing it as a promotion. And that's why I did it, because I thought it was going to be a fun promotion and it would bring people in and people would buy more items, which, to be fair, they did buy a lot of items. But I wasn't prepared for the cost that was going to be with that. Now, the couple were resellers. They told me they were resellers. They ended up buying 20 items and I had to pay out of pocket. They only paid $9.21, which was extremely appealing to a buyer and especially a reseller who's a buyer, but I had to pay for it. I hope that makes sense. That's why my shows, boop, I ain't clicking that second button either for a long time until I feel like I can cover the cost. Now, what I do also hear from other, like for instance, kids clothes sellers, $9.21 is going to cover a lot of items for kids items because they weigh a lot less. How much can you ship in kids items for $9.21? Like I said, you can 7, 8, 9, 10, maybe 10 items. If you're selling baby clothes, for sure, you could get 10 to 15 items in a box shipped USPS for that amount, most likely. So it might make sense if you're doing lightweight items, maybe even jewelry, right? Jewelry, baby clothes, lightweight items. Then it would make sense, I guess, even for card shows. If you're a card seller, you could run a promotion and it will say, hey, special shipping, only pay up to $9.21. So the customer knows they can buy as much as they want and will only pay up to $9.21 in shipping. But for me right now, as a newbie, as someone who's selling, my customers, a lot of my customers are buying many items at a time because my starts are very low right now. Most of my starts are $2 to $5. And so I need to have buyer pays all shipping costs. That's my button. That's what I'm picking because I think that's the safest bet. I think these other two settings are the safest bet for my business model, for selling clothes. And as a new seller, I think that's the best way to go about it. And then at the end here, you can see some other options. Obviously, even Whatnot has an option for you to promote your show, of course. And then you just hit that button, schedule show, boom. But that's how you do all of the shipping. I'm really trying to focus on the shipping part of it. Those are your options. That's how I understand it. Again, I need to put out a disclaimer. I am not perfect and I am a new seller. So do what you think. I don't want anyone to be mad at me if something doesn't work the way it's supposed to. Now, here is an example. I went on to Whatnot's help. And this is their help for shipping. And obviously you guys can read this too. You can just Google Whatnot, shipping support. And it comes to this really helpful page of a ton of information. Here it says, about the $9.21. Most of our buyers won't pay over $9.21 for certain shipments. We kind of just went over that. They talk about the consolidated shipping is what I've already kind of told you is Whatnot consolidates the purchases for you to make the most cost-effective packages instead of each item being shipped separately. I get asked this all the time in my shows already is, do you bundle shipping? And essentially Whatnot does that for you. So if they buy one item and one item and one item, they're not getting charged $5 every time. They consolidate your shipping for you. They bundle it for you. And honestly, this is super helpful. Poshmark does the same if the customer bundles the items, right? Obviously. But for eBay, I personally find it a little bit harder as far as the user or for the buyer to bundle the shipping. I think this is really smart from Whatnot. I think it's very user-friendly and buyer and really seller-friendly that they will combine the packages for you and give them the most cost-effective amount, obviously based on those weight settings. So I think that's great. Here at the end, this is where they give you shipping profile and how much that they say that some of these things would cost. Weigh. And they give you some examples. So like I said, trading cards are super lightweight. A lot of my son's trading card shipping is 1 to 3 ounces because it's a tiny little baseball card. It weighs nothing. And they give you examples here, right? And this is what I was trying to explain earlier. If you can see this, it says, here's an example of your shipping. Buyer purchases 3 comic books using the 4 to 7 ounce shipping profile, which is what we were talking about earlier when you set your items to 4 to 7 ounces. If they buy 3 comic books at 4 to 7 shipping profile, when you have it set incrementally in your shipping profile, then it will only add so much to it. An additional 2.5 ounces, 2.5 ounces. So this is where the shipping profiles can help you combine your shipping. Now, I don't really use this so far because I don't fully understand it. But this information will give you, like, I could probably read this like 10, I should probably read this like 10 times to understand more of the bundling shipping and the incremental shipping as far as when people buy multiple items. I hope that's not confused. I'm sure a lot of you are I'm confused. But this page here gives you a lot of information. You know, you could kind of just look, whatnot, bundling. Keynotes, in my opinion, is that Whatnot does bundle multiple items for your buyers for you. They do not pay individual pricing per item. And I think that's really user friendly. I wanted to show one last thing. Now, this is how you put a product into your show. So once you create a show, you go to creating the items within your show. And this is like one of those generic basic listings for me. It's a plus size item. See, I put plus size as just the generic title. I don't have a specific item to this, but look over to the right here. This is where you can set your shipping. You're setting up an item just like you're listing it on eBay, you're listing on Mercari, whatever. This is where you set it. And here's your options. Shipping profile. Here's all those different weight dimensions. 4 to 7 ounces, 8 to 12 ounces, and it keeps going up from there. 1 to 2 pounds, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 6. This is in the individual item. Here's your starting price, right? But we're talking about shipping. I'm trying to focus on the shipping part, and this is already getting long. So this is probably going to be the last thing I show you, but this is when you're adding a product to your show. There's a little shipping box here to the right, and that's where you set your items. So for my plus size tops, most of the time I do 8 to 11 ounces, but if it said plus size jeans, or really any jeans, I'm going to be selecting 1 to 2 pounds or even 2 to 3 pounds. Jeans are going to be at least a pound. So if you're running any jeans, I would do at least 1 to 2 pounds. If they are heavier jeans or, larger sizes can be a little bit heavier, you would need to do 2 to 3 pounds. Because it weighs a lot more. That's where you put in your shipping profile for each. There is this button for hazardous materials, and it gives you a little thing underneath. Most of you aren't probably going to be selling hazardous materials. Fragrances, nail polish, electronics, anything with a battery, basically any like makeup that has a liquid in it, that could be a hazardous material, and you do have to note that. But that 99.9% of the time is not going to be applicable to me, so I don't even really worry about that. But here is where you put it, 2 to 3 pounds or whatever. If you're doing baby clothes, then maybe you could do 1 to 3 or 4 to 7 ounces. And that's how you set up your item. I hope some of this is helpful. Like I said, hopefully showing you the screens as I see them and walking through them is somewhat helpful. I will go in and probably do another shipping video in a month or two to give some updates and how I'm feeling about the shipping part and if it's confusing. Obviously, this again is where I messed up here, is in the show. Schedule a show towards the bottom. Put buyer pays all shipping. That would be my hugest suggestion, that no matter what, they pay for all of the shipping. I hope this was helpful. Comment below. Let me know your thoughts, what your worries are. If any of this was helpful, I hope it was, and I just didn't sound like a crazy person. I know it's a lot. Learning anything new is always a lot. You got this. The more you know, the more you familiarize yourself with it, the more comfortable you're going to be. Wishing you all the best and the most success, of course. And I will see you guys on the next video. Love you all so much. Bye.